Take a look at these enormous cities and you might spot some similarities. They're all in the same country, one that clearly knows a thing or two about urban sprawl. There's hardly a skyscraper in sight. But watch closely and you'll see they do exist, just not really in any great numbers. That's because this is one of the toughest places on Earth to build tall, and engineers must grapple with the extremes of the elements, unforgiving ground conditions, congestion, and the absence of some key resources. Now, after decades of building outwards instead of upwards, skyscrapers here are on the rise, and engineers are having to meet some immense challenges. This is why building a skyscraper in Mexico is so ridiculously hard. Now, you might be wondering how a city could end up looking like this, an endless landscape of mostly low-rise buildings as far as the eye can see. Well, here in Mexico, a country that's home to around 130 million people, more than 80% of the population live in urban areas. And that means a lot of houses. As for why they couldn't be placed in high-rises, well, Mexico does have its reasons.
This is one of the most densely packed places on Earth. More than 20 million people live here, and this earthquake has hit them hard.
There are around 30,000 earthquakes here every year, so it's not a great place to put a tall building. Now, many of those quakes are small, but they can occasionally be devastating. Like the one that hit Mexico City in 1985. Thousands died, and there were multiple building collapses. In the aftermath, new construction codes were introduced to make structures more resilient to future disasters, and those rules have been steadily updated over time. It had to be done, of course, but it means that plans for any new skyscrapers here have involved some serious structural engineering. Take a look around the capital and you'll see examples of it everywhere. The 225-metre Torre Mayor had to be fitted with a series of huge dampers which dissipate seismic energy and work in a similar way to shock absorbers on a car. And as it turns out, they worked pretty well. The tower came through a major earthquake in 2017 without taking any notable damage. When it completed in 2016, the 246-metre Torre Reforma became the tallest building in the capital at the time. But to achieve this height in a seismic zone, engineering firm Arup had to equip it with pre-tensioned hangars arranged in a double V-shape which braced the facade. Then there's the Torre BBVA Bancomer with its braced megaframe system that gives it resistance against lateral forces. Seismic links between the perimeter columns become ductile and elastic-like in the event of a large quake, and all the energy is absorbed by the building's unusually deep foundations. Thanks to poor ground conditions, these supporting pillars had to go down 50 metres. That's over twice as deep as the ones at New York's One World Trade Center, a building more than double its height. That's all because Mexico City is built on the site of an old lake bed that was filled with sediment. To give yourself a solid base, you have to dig down quite a way.
Mexico City, the problem, as you mentioned, is the soil, especially in the places where we have more of these tall buildings. It's a very soft clay. So the limitation that we have is the depth that we can go with the piles.
Roberto Stark is Director General at Stark & Ortiz. It's a structural engineering firm based in Mexico City that worked on the Torre Coy skyscraper. But some more on that in a bit. Roberto pointed out to us that it's not just ground conditions that are a challenge in the capital. You need to actually find some ground to build on in the first place.
It's due to the value of the land. In some places that has been built, many of these buildings are the most expensive land value. So that's why we started to go vertical. And also the city cannot go horizontal anymore because, the lack of infrastructure or the cost of the infrastructure that we have to build in order to fit all these buildings are huge.
Plots of land may be hard to come by in Mexico, but that's not the case in Scotland. In fact, you can get yourself your own little slice of Scottish soil thanks to the sponsor of today's video. You'll get a lovely certificate to prove it and get to do your bit for the planet.
Established Titles is a fun and novel way to preserve the natural woodlands of Scotland, plant new trees, and even become a lord or lady in the process. Buying one of these title packs will give you at least 1 square foot of dedicated land on a private estate in the village of Edelston. A tree is planted with every order through the charities One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future. Now, the whole thing is based on an old Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds or lords and ladies in English. You could use your new title in lots of different ways, think credit cards and plane tickets. And the first 200 people buying a title pack through this link will get a plot close to mine. That's right, I gave it a go, and I'm now officially Lord Fred Mills. It's a great gift idea, and Established Titles is running a massive sale right now. Use the code TheB1M and you'll get an additional 10% off. Just go to establishedtitles.com/TheB1M.
That's enough from Lord Fred Mills. Let's get back to the video.
Now, Mexico's capital isn't actually where its tallest skyscrapers are. To see those, you have to head northeast to Monterrey, which has been going through a kind of skyscraper boom. With a metropolitan area of around 5 million people, it's Mexico's industrial and business hub, boasting some of the country's biggest buildings, including the tallest. It's also the wealthiest city here, with higher incomes than anywhere else, and on top of that, the threat of earthquakes is far lower than in the capital. Sounds like a much nicer and safer place to build, but here among the mountains, nature still has a way of making life difficult. The state of Nuevo León and its capital Monterrey is prone to big tropical storms, so to build a skyscraper here you'll need to make sure it can stand up to high winds. That was key for the team engineering Torre BBVA, a skyscraper that can withstand gusts of up to 300 km an hour, more than the highest category of hurricane. There's earthquake resistance engineering here too, don't worry.
Up to now, they have been experienced earthquakes of 2.5, 3, magnitudes 2.5, 3, which is very, very low. But we say, what happened if there's an earthquake magnitude 5 in that building? And we checked that and we proved that there is no risk.
Now, to stop wind loads from causing noticeable movement in the building, a pair of concrete belt walls, each 1 story in height, were added in. They connect the perimeter columns to the central core and provide higher resistance to lateral loads, as well as more stiffness. Building an entirely concrete structure also helped to make the tower more rigid, but meant that an unusually large amount of concrete was needed throughout the construction works. Back when it was constructed between 2013 and 2017, that wasn't a problem, but it could have been a very different story if the works had happened in 2022. Why? Well, because one of the main ingredients of concrete is a substance that's become extremely scarce around here.
This reservoir in the outskirts of Monterrey is almost entirely dry, and many here worry the same will happen to the local economy.
That's right, you need water to build skyscrapers, and this city's been battling a severe water crisis because of Mexico's worst drought in 30 years. In July, residents only had access to water for around 6 hours a day. Many had no running water at all for months and had to fill up containers from delivery trucks. You can see how one of the 3 reservoirs that supplies water to the city had almost completely dried up between 2015 and 2022. For more than a year, there's been exceptionally low rainfall, and the rate of construction happening hasn't helped. That's because over the last 40 years, Monterrey's population has nearly tripled, and there's been a race to give all those new residents a place to live and work. The city's infrastructure hasn't really kept up and still relies on the same water sources that it's used for decades. Cemex is one of the world's leading manufacturers of cement and concrete and supplied it for Torre BBVA. It has its headquarters near Monterrey and has also had to adapt to the water shortage. In 2019, the firm carried out a study of its 1,500 sites worldwide and found that 16% were in areas of higher water stress or scarcity, and nearly half of those were in Mexico. Now, low water levels can lead to concrete becoming pricier, tighter regulations on access to land and water, and more competition between those who need water, which is kind of everyone. But Monterrey is set to get a new water source soon. A new aqueduct is under construction and it'll transport water from the El Cuchillo Dam east of Monterrey into the city. According to the country's National Water Commission, that could take as little as 8 months, but we'll need 10 construction companies working night and day to get it done. It all goes to show just how hard it really is to build tall in this country. Ground conditions, earthquakes, a lack of space, high winds, and water shortages all mean that the teams building Mexican skyscrapers are pulling off some immense feats of engineering. And with a skyscraper boom now emerging here, there'll be plenty of those feats to amaze us and inspire budding engineers in the years to come. This video was made possible by established titles. You can learn more about that at the link below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to get more from the definitive video channel for construction, make sure you're subscribed to the B1M.